Tell me, do you spend most of your day in a seated position? Does it cause you to have back pain, tight hips, or just discomfort in your body? I'm Kai, and I teach you yoga in a way that actually helps you learn about your body. And the average working person in the modern world spends most of their day in a seated position. So if that's you, you're not alone. It's not necessarily your fault. It's just the way the working world works these days. But being seated in a chair isn't actually an innate human position. It's not a position that we would have taken in our ancestry. So I know it feels like it is because chairs have been around a long time, but the amount of time chairs have been around compared to the actual length that humanity or like the modern human being has been around is actually a very small fraction of that time. So our bodies were not designed to be in a seated position in a chair. We're meant to sit on the ground like this by all means, or in a squat position. If you could picture like a hunter-gatherer kind of squatting and picking for food and things, we're meant to be in these kinds of positions, but sitting in a chair is not normal. And a lot of things go, I don't want to say wrong, but a lot of things can become misaligned in the body when we're in a seated position for extended periods of time. For instance, when you sit down and you put that weight down into your hips, what can happen is the hips actually collapse. So the muscles in our glutes, our outer glutes, and just the base of our pelvis completely relax, which isn't something that would normally happen when our hips are in that position. So because of that, a lot of pressure gets dumped down into our backs. Our shoulders will roll forward because the core is no longer engaged. The core is something that also collapses, and our leg muscles tighten and shorten. So a myriad of things kind of cascade down and go quote unquote wrong when we take a seated position for extended periods of time. But as a result of this, we feel pain. We can feel pain in our back, in our hips. We feel that tightness. When we go to try to move, things just feel all out of whack. And so today's sequence, what I'm going to share with you today, is going to be an informative flow. And I wouldn't even call it a flow. We're going to spend literally the entire 10 minutes here on our back. But it's going to be a few movements that are both opening, so we're going to do some hip stretching, but it's also engaging that low back and the glute area to help build strength there and to help re-engage those hips that have been collapsed all day. So the good news is we're going to be on our back the entire time. So if you're ready, go ahead and be on your yoga mat. You don't need any other props or things, just a mat or a towel even is totally fine, and come laying on your back. And as you lay on your back, bring your feet to the ground with your knees bent, and you want your feet just about hip width apart or a little wider than your hips. Bring your right knee up into your chest, and notice that when you bring your knee into your chest, your knee joint is closed, or is as closed as it's going to get, and usually there's somewhat of a touch between your calf muscle and the back of your hamstring. That's great. You want that to be happening. So flex your foot, so that's the opposite of a ballerina. Bring your toes up towards your knee and keep this knee joint as closed as it'll be as you start to turn your knee open to the right, so widening your knee to the right. Notice how my calf muscle and my hamstring are still pretty much touching. Foot still flexed. If you can't quite get your ankle up on top of your knee here, just step that left foot away from you a little further and get that hook of your right ankle on top of your left knee. Now, keeping your foot engaged, you could even push the outer edge of your right foot into your knee. Bring your hand lightly to your inner right thigh, your right hand, and start to push your thigh away from you. Definitely don't hold your breath. Make your breath keep moving. The tendency when we're trying to focus our brain and our body is going to be the breath. Will sometimes you'll hold your breath and then you can't focus on anything. So breath still moving. Gently push your right thigh away from you. If this feels good and things are going well, you can start to step that left foot back in, as long as you keep the outer edge of your right foot pushing into your left leg. And as you're pushing this thigh away from you, you might feel some sensations in your outer hips or your outer glutes. That's great. Maybe they're pretty intense sensations. If you feel anything in your knee, you want to back off. You don't want to go too far in your knee in attempt to stretch your hip and then like pull your knee, right? We always want to respect and prioritize our very wonderful joints. But if it's going well and you're pushing your leg away, you might start to bring your hand to your hip crease and start to anchor that hip crease away from you as if you were bringing a little bit more length to your right side. And if you're someone who practices a little more regularly and you're used to this figure 4 type of position, you might be ready to loop your right hand through the whole of your legs, lift your left foot off the ground, and hold your hands behind your left thigh. What happens when people go for this position when their hip or knee isn't quite ready for it is as you lift your legs, your body's going to start to peel up off the ground. Your foot's going to start to sickle in, meaning the sole of your foot will start to point up towards your face, which is not what you want. You want to keep pushing your foot away. So if that's starting to happen, just reset, bring your feet down, and push your thigh away. Couple more breaths. And whether you have the back of your thigh or you're just kind of pushing your thigh away here, reset by stepping that left foot away, bring your right foot to the ground, and just feel into that. Feel into the different sides of your hips, maybe wiggle your hips side to side. Let your breath steady out. And we'll switch sides. First by bringing that left knee into your chest, connecting the back of the calf to your hamstring or getting them as close as they'll go. Bring your toes up towards your knee and start to turn your knee open to the left. Again, keeping this knee joint as closed as you can, hooking your ankle outer foot on top of your right knee. And if you can't get that hook and your foot sickles in, like see how my foot's pointing towards my face? You don't want that. That's going to pull on your knee. So keep your foot flexed and maybe moving your leg away from you to get that hook at first. Once you have it, maybe stepping your foot in, gently encouraging your left thigh away from you. Notice the word gentle. Breathing. And if you liked it on the other side, maybe bringing your hand instead to your hip crease and encouraging that hip crease away from you, lengthening through your left side. All the while, that pinky edge of your left foot is actively pushing into your right thigh. Soften your face if you can, just softening anywhere throughout your body that doesn't need that engagement. And if you want to, and it worked well on the other side, you could hold the back of your right thigh, keeping your foot engaged. But just because it worked well on one side doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work well on this side. Something about being in a chair in a seated position, the majority of people don't sit evenly down on both sit bones with both legs pointed straight ahead. Sometimes we'll have a cross of the ankles or a cross of the knees, and the way that torques the hips, it'll make an uneven stretch happen to one side or the other. So oftentimes our hips are tight unevenly. So you got to do what's right for one side and be mindful on the other. A couple more breaths. And as you come out of that, just bring both feet to the ground. Again, just reset your hips, plant your feet flat, maybe shake your hips side to side. Now we're going to do a reverse butterfly. Supta Baddha Konasana is the word in yoga. Bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees open wide. And for some, your knees will be quite high, and that might be uncomfortable. It might feel really uncomfortable to have that tug. So you can do a couple different things to support your legs. If your soles of feet are together and you're open wide and things are going well, perfect. Just hang out here. You could rest your hands on your thighs. You could also rest your hands on your belly. But if you're like, no, Kai, please help. This doesn't feel good. You can bring your hands to your outer legs and just use your muscles to help support your thighs. You could also bring your hands into a fist and wedge your fists into your outer glutes and kind of give yourself somewhat of a kickstand to rest on there. And if that's not high enough, you can always grab pillows or something. Just shove them under your legs. But the name of the game here is to try to bring a little bit of engagement to the inseam of your legs. You do that by pushing the soles of your feet together. And you might even feel some hip engagement, like some outer glute engagement, when you push your feet together. And see if you can keep that push, even if it's just a little bit of push, as you let your knees open just a bit more. And if you're feeling like your back is arching way up away from the ground, you might take your hands under your glutes and slide your bum towards the back of your mat so that the low back's closer to the ground. Just a couple more breaths. Bring your hands to your outer knees to help you lift your knees back up and bring your feet to the ground with your knees bent. This next one is more of a lower back and glute engagement position. You might have seen it before. Bring your feet to the ground with your knees bent, so feet just about hip width apart, and you want your heels relatively close to your hips, so mine are just a couple inches away. Press the backs of your arms down and then walk your shoulders underneath you a little bit. It's like you're trying to actually tuck your shoulder underneath you. So to do that a couple times on each side, it might feel uncomfortable. And keep pushing your shoulders down, lifting your chest as you start to lift your hips up. And the amount of lift your hips personally get is just going to depend on the openness of your quads, the strength of your glutes. So if you're low, don't worry about it. Just focus on flexing your glutes and lifting through your chest. Keep pushing your arms down. One more breath. Slowly lower. Move your feet apart, rest your knees together, and just take a couple breaths with your knees supported on each other. So if you're used to bridge pose, and this is no big deal, you might be getting up into it pretty high, and that's great. You can just keep working there. Work at your own pace. For those who you're newer to this, let's just take it slow. You don't want to do too much too soon. Building strength is all about working in stages and honoring where you're at. You can't do 1,000 push-ups in one day. You have to start with 5, right? So this is where we're working here. Bring your feet back to the ground. We'll do it again. Feet parallel to each other. Don't let your toes turn out. That'll hurt your knees or might kind of twinge in the knees. Walk your shoulders underneath you. Kind of lift your hips to get them even further under. And then press your arms down. Lift your hips. Think of moving your chest towards your chin. And really flex your glutes and lift through your pelvis. So think pubic bone up. Just one more breath. And support yourself as you slowly lower back down. Feet apart, rest your knees together, bring your hands back to your belly and take a couple breaths. And if that was challenging for you, the good news is it gets easier over time. But if it was challenging for you, I want to challenge you to do this more often. That being this is a high energy pose, but if you seem to be lacking strength in these areas, doing these kind of movements on a regular basis could do a world of good for your ability to reduce that back pain and have a more supportive hip and lower body, so that when you do spend a ton of time in a seated position, you're counterbalancing those effects a bit. So now what I want you to do is bring your left foot to the ground and bring your right knee to your chest. So pull your right knee in. Hold the back of your right thigh with your hands, so a tight interlace. You don't want to let go, and start to extend your leg up towards the ceiling. So getting your leg as straight as it'll go. Then flex your foot so you're pulling your toes down towards your face. You could also think of that as reaching through your heel. And push your thigh into your hands. Act like you're trying to actually break through your hands, but don't let go. This is a very therapeutic position for your low back. So not only is it pushing your femur bone, the big bone in your leg that sits in your hip socket, it's kind of resetting that and pushing it back into good position. But it's also a hamstring stretch, and the hamstrings are a muscle that shorten as we spend time in a seated position. And with that muscle being short, when we go to bend forward, more pressure gets put into our back because our leg isn't actually flexible enough for us to bend at our waist. So when that muscle gets too tight, our back is what's going to try to compensate, and we really don't want that happening. So over time, using your hands to help pull your leg more towards you. I mean, if you have to work with a bent knee right now, totally cool too. Like I said, we'll do this in stages. One more breath. And as you exhale, bring your right foot back to the ground. Reset. Keep your right foot down. Bring your left knee into your chest. Hold the back of your thigh with your hands, tight grip, and start to extend your left leg straight. And as your leg straightens, flex your foot, pulling your toes down towards your face, or reach through your heel, whichever one makes more sense to you. And you want to push your femur bone into your hands. So it's that push and resistance that helps reset that bone into the hip socket. And then over time, to get that hamstring stretch, using the muscles in your arms to help pull your leg closer towards you. Try to keep your shoulders down, the front of your chest relaxed. Just one more breath. And as you exhale, bring your foot back to the ground. Now bring your feet far apart from each other so your feet are parallel to each other, but like as wide as your mat, so they're wider than your hips. And bring your hands like a swirl cactus. If you don't know what that is, it's your elbows in line with your shoulders with your palms up, like the emoji. You know, everyone has the cactus emoji. Us Arizonans know what that is. So move your hips over to the right a little bit and let your knees windshield wiper over to the left. Take a couple breaths here. If you feel this in your knees, engage through your feet more, or just don't go as far over to the left. Lift your knees back up, shift your hips over to the left, and let your knees fall to the right. Bring your knees back to center, hips back to center, and just really quick, with your hips at center, let your knees fall back over to the left. And with your inhale, bring them up. Keep your feet wide. Let your knees fall over to the right. Exhale. Inhale up through center. Exhale to the left. Inhale through center. And exhale to the right. Bring your knees back up to center. Shift your hips back to center. And let your knees fall in on each other. Once again, bringing your hands to your belly. Once your hips feel reset, make your knees wide and start to bring your knees in towards your chest. And you can just kind of rock your knees up, lengthening your low back. See how my hips are lifting just a little bit off the ground. Maybe the flesh of your hips doesn't leave, but the bones kind of lift up. If that feels too intense, you can just use the weight of your arms to rest down on your knees. Or if you are you familiar with Happy Baby and you can take a Happy Baby, that might feel really, really good here. If you're unfamiliar with Happy Baby, you could bring your knees wide, knees to chest, arms inside legs. You can either hold your ankles or shin bones and start to point your feet up towards the ceiling, or if you can reach, hold onto the outer edge of your feet. For some people, this is a really relaxing position. For others, it's like torture. So you have to be discerning. If this doesn't feel good quite yet, just back off. Hold somewhere like down by your knees. You don't have to reach your feet. Just like hold wherever feels good. And rock side to side. Lengthening your tailbone back down towards the ground. Just a couple breaths. And just bring your knees back to your chest. When you get up, make sure you roll to the side and push yourself up seated so you're not cranking on your low back, undoing all that good work we did. And that's as simple as it can be. If you did that every day, imagine how much better your back would feel, how much more open your hips would be. Another tip to counterbalance that seated position is just to go for a daily walk. lengthening the legs through walking is such a therapeutic movement for bodies that sit all day. I have a ton of other tips that go along with things like this, so if you want more insight on these things, like I said, my name's Kai, and I'm so passionate about teaching yoga in a way that isn't super esoteric and fluffy. I love everything there is to the yoga practice, but I really want to teach in a way that helps you learn how to move your body more effectively. I want you to feel confident in these movements and to build strength and mobility over time. So let me know if this was helpful. Let me know if you want more back and hip things or anything else that you'd love to learn from an alignment-based teacher. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you do more of this. I will see you next time. Take care.